Let's talk about the brain as an organ and how we can protect it physically. Hi, I'm Dr. Peter Minke. This is Minke Wellness. And the brain and spinal cord, as part of the central nervous system, or the central nervous system, has some unique characteristics that are different than the rest of the body. Because of the blood-brain barrier, the central nervous system has fewer antioxidants. And so we really do need to protect the brain from any oxidative stress, any toxins from getting across that blood-brain barrier into the brain and spinal cord, because there's just not enough antioxidants to protect it. It's a whole different system. And so we need to have a focus on protecting. And then, we can also flood the body with nutrients, flood the central nervous system with antioxidants, right? The central nervous system is like 80% fat, 70% fat. And what I mean by fat is it's the membranes that wrap the nerves. The entire brain is full of very small little fibers that go out and connect to each other. Every one of those fibers is wrapped in membranes. So every membrane in the body is a fat-based system. So if the fat gets oxidized, that's bad. So we need those antioxidants to make it into the brain. And one of the unique qualities of essential oils and melatonin is that they are antioxidants. So I'm going to talk more in a different video just specifically about melatonin, but right now I want to talk about protecting the brain from that oxidation. Now, just to clarify, oxidation is typically what we think of in terms of rusting. If you see metal that gets oxidized, it's rusting. And so what's happening is it's a chemical change of the metal, and we've added electrons on there, and it's become we've taken away electrons and it's become oxidized. If you add electrons, it gets reduced. If you take it away, it gets oxidized. So something has come along, a free radical, and stolen an electron from the membrane structures. Well, when that happens, it changes the membrane and it becomes stiff. We definitely don't want stiff and thick membranes. It's kind of a whole different definition of the word thick head, right? Or fat head. We are all fat heads. We've got a lot of fat. Our brain is mostly fat. And so we've got to protect that fat. And fat-soluble antioxidants are the answer. Well, as you know, in our diet, fat-soluble antioxidants come mostly in the form of these fat-soluble vitamins, A, D, E, and K. And we already know there's a chronic problem in our country of a depletion of vitamin D, for example, and as they start testing more and more for the A, D, and E, or A, E, and K, you find out that we're low in those as well. One of the reasons I think that we're low in fat-soluble antioxidants is because we have so many fat-soluble toxins that the fat-soluble antioxidant vitamins are being used up, trying to protect against all of this large onslaught of fat-soluble toxins. Okay, so where can we go to get some extra help in this category? Well, here's where essential oils shine above all other substances that I know of, nutritional substances, and that is that they are fat-soluble antioxidants. We take an essential oil. You've already done this, assuming throughout the program we've been taking essential oils internally. If you just take peppermint in water, Vitality peppermint, and you drink it, you can feel the peppermint penetrating through the fat tissue immediately, absorbing through the mouth and absorbing into the tissues as you swallow. So we know that essential oils travel very quickly through the body when taken as supplements, and so we have every reason to believe that the fat-soluble antioxidant power of essential oils is making it into the brain. There's actually been brain studies for that. And so we're making it into the brain, and we're working to protect. So we've got the awesome protection of essential oils. Interestingly, melatonin, like I said, I'll do a whole nother video. Melatonin is itself an antioxidant. Interesting that the brain has developed its own little system. So we'll talk a whole video just on melatonin. And so we definitely need to protect the brain. Now, the other part about the oxidized, if you have an oxidized brain and the function starts to break down, everything gets a little slower, everything gets a little thicker. We need to turn that over. The problem is the repair mechanisms in the brain are different than the rest of the body. And that comes down to, we've got a different of the helper cells. There's a lot of helper cells, glial cells inside the brain that run around helping to kind of just repair things. But that process is slower than normal tissue. So once toxins get into the brain, once damage is done, it's harder to repair that than to prevent it in the first place. So I'm really advocating everyone be very aware of protecting your brain physically, and that would come in the form of watching out for volatile toxins, volatile chemicals. So anything aromatic that's not natural, well, let's clarify that. Aromatic compounds, essential oils, we already know are good, are healthy, they're coming straight from the plant, there's no adulteration, and we've used those oils for thousands of years, so we know that they have good benefits, and we can already feel those. But other aromatic compounds, gasoline, paint fumes, synthetic aromas, because they have phthalates and other things added to them, these things can damage the brain. And so we want to really, really protect ourselves, get rid of all of these aromatic compounds. Don't be sniffing gasoline and glue. Okay, you know this, but the thing is, guys especially, you're not wearing a vapor mask when you go and paint, or when you do flooring, or there's a lot of vapors that come off of construction material, and it's so easy not to, I don't want to be bothered with that. And so, okay, every time you get a whiff of gasoline or a whiff of, you're damaging the brain. And how many brain cells do you want to lose? How much damage do you want to do before it's a one-way ticket on that. It's very difficult to go back from that. Believe me, I've had a lot of neurological damage from chemotherapy, and my brain is definitely not what it used to be. And so, I'm just really encouraging you to protect. Now, can you reverse damage? Yes, it's very slow. It takes a long time. I guess there are ways that you can, maybe there's ways to do it faster, but let's breathe in to the brain right now and give it some protection, and then work to repair the physical brain. So we're just really focusing on the oxidation part right now, not other physical trauma. But as you do this, you breathe into the brain and structures of the head, you can start to kind of feel, if you've had a surgery, or if you had something that that's been a physical injury, then you can work on that as well. So breathing in awareness, I'm going to breathe in a listening breath, and I'm listening for my structural part of my brain. I'm not trying to work on function. We can breathe into memory and breathe into cognitive function, breathe into balance structures back here. We might do all that. But we can definitely breathe into the brain itself as a structure, and it's got two hemispheres, the right and left hemisphere. So I'm going to breathe up. I'm going to breathe up into the right hemisphere, and I'm just going to say, hi brain, how you doing? And then I breathe up into the left hemisphere. And the brain has a physical structure, and now I'm going to bring a sparkle in there, and I've used essential oils, but I can grab something like my peppermint, for example. This is the cosmetic peppermint, and I'm just going to inhale that, because I can feel that peppermint's very tingly, and you can feel that tingle up there, and you can kind of get that sense of that stimulating tingle that's going into the brain. So I'm going to breathe in and bathe, and if I had frankincense right here, I would do frankincense, bathe my brain. I'm just imagining bathing my brain in the peppermint, and that sparkle, protecting, giving a little aura of protection around my brain, and go all the way back down, get it all the way back to the base of the skull. Okay, and then down the spine. And I can feel that, I can imagine, I don't know if it's my imagination, but I can feel the cooling of that peppermint go all the way down and actually start to make it down into my spine. And so can we have inflammation? That's the other second part. So is our brain oxidized, and what happens if it is? There is inflammation. There are inflammatory cascades that happen in the brain. And so we definitely don't want the brain to swell and in response to inflammation. So we want to keep the inflammation down in the brain, And so I'm going to breathe that cooling. That's why I like peppermint just to do in this particular activity, but breathe in a cooling just to soothe and cool, and again, they have that sparkle. Now, I've kind of have this sense for me as I'm doing this, I'm kind of getting the outside edge of the brain. I want to get all the way through that gray matter. I want to get the whole thickness of the brain there. So I'm going to make sure that I really get from the inside out. All right, so I'm going to go straight back with my breathing into the base of my brain, and then up from there and feel that sparkle. It gets some of those deeper layers of the brain. And this is just an exercise, again, to make a connection to the brain. Breathe in the oils, breathe in the protection, and then imagine, so I'm going to breathe in for a listening breath to see how much of my brain is oxidized. I'm going to breathe in, and again, I'm going to put some kind of image. I'm going to use a flower, I'm going to use a rosebush, and if it's oxidized, it's going to have some kind of, brown spots and that kind of thing. So I'm just going to say, okay, brain, if you're a rosebush, breathe in and show me the status of your oxidative stress. In fact, so since I just actually just breathed in the peppermint, it's actually starting to, as I'm looking at it, it's clearing out, and it's this beautiful leaves, all those, those nice, healthy, waxy leaves, cover, and it just has that shimmer to it. And so I'm feeling the flowering, the rosebush, everything's looking very healthy. Actually, there's a whole, on the whole left side is not so happy. So I'm going to breathe in more specifically over to the left side and really get that rose bush to look all nice and clean and vibrant and protected on the left. It seems like I'm going to have to do a couple breaths like that. So sometimes you don't get the result right away, or you've identified something that is stressed or compromised, and you think, I'm just not doing anything. I'm just going to do, I can't really feel it. I don't know. Maybe I just pretended that. Trust that. This is a mechanism. This is how you get better and better at learning what your body's telling you, is this breathing is a very powerful connection. So trust what your body is telling you in those imageries, and then, do work on it, even if it takes a few days, a few weeks, a few months, who cares? Come back to it and go, oh yeah, I was breathing into my brain. I want to see how that's going, and okay, I'm going to really get that brain to be healthy. And again, I don't, if you can't imagine what healthy brain tissue looks like, just use a rose bush or some other kind of image that works for you, that you can, relate to, that gives that translation of that intention. This is my consciousness working to heal my own body. Okay, and of course I have these great tools that can help augment the consciousness. The peppermint, for example, very stimulating, very tingly. I can use that to complement what I'm doing here. I can also imagine all these great nutrients that I'm working on to, I'm taking mind-wise, I'm taking these great nutrients. So imagine them in the bloodstream. Imagine those nutrients flooding into the brain, repairing. If you're taking, CoQ10, which is in the mind-wise, that's a great one for the brain. Right? So I can imagine every one of these nutrients coming in, the minerals, healthy things coming in, and then I can exhale out, pulling out as I pull. I'm going to actually breathe into the brain, and as I breathe, I'm going to pull, because the breath comes in and down. I'm going to, with an inhale, pull toxins out of the brain. All right, and that was actually, I felt it out of the right side of the brain. Now I'm going to pull the left. So we can protect the brain. We can breathe in with essential oils. We can imagine those fat-soluble antioxidants, protecting, and we just use our imagination to imagine that happening. And then we can use the same type of imagination to breathe and pull toxins out. We've got to get the brain protected. We've got to get the toxins out of the brain. Metals, heavy metals get stuck in the brain. So here's where backing it up with your sulfurzyme, as a way for your body to detox that metal. So just a little bit of breathing sequence here for the brain as a physical organ, and talking about the oxidative stress it goes through. Happy wellness, one day at a time.